Hello. Well, here we are again. So, here we go. The Bitter Rose and the Thorn. I'm going to read from my little pad here. This story explores the complicated life of Lara Everett, a widow living in post-war Britain who seeks solace in spiritualism and routine to cope with the loss of her husband and child. Her stagnant existence is disrupted by a turbulent relationship with Bill Lee, a charming but manipulative man whose callous behaviour eventually forces Lara to confront her own suppressed anger and lack of fulfilment. Through interactions with a diverse cast, including the resilient Margot Charpenter and her judgmental neighbour Drusilla Edward, Lara begins to recognise how she has allowed others to exploit her kindness. Ultimately, the story depicts her difficult journey towards self-discovery as she chooses to break free from her past and pursue her lifelong dream of international travel. This transition marks a shift from a life of mechanical grieving towards one of courageous independence and personal renewal. Now, as an aside, if you're after a nasty, smarmy, womanising villain who could have been played by the famous British actor James Mason in his heyday, that is Bill Lee, this novel has him in spades. I thought of James Mason when I was writing the character. He's a nasty, nasty piece of work. I love this novel. And yes, I enjoyed writing it very much. And it's one of those novels that has a very, very nice ending. So there it is. The Bitter Rose and the Thorn. I hope you enjoy the AI voices. Here we go.
Okay, let's unpack this. I want you to close your eyes for a second, just for a moment. I want you to picture the year 1969. What do you see? What comes to mind?
Well, the default, I think for most of us, is the pop culture playbook, you know? The mental projector just starts rolling the greatest hits.
Right.
You're seeing Neil Armstrong hopping onto the lunar surface.
A man on the moon. The big one.
The big one. You're seeing 500,000 people in the mud at Woodstock.
Peace and love.
Maybe you're picturing the Beatles on that rooftop in London for their last concert, or the hazy Technicolor dream of the summer of love finally sort of burning out.
Exactly. It's tie-dye, it's revolution, it's the future just slamming right into the present.
Yeah.
But today, we are going to take the deep dive into a version of 1969 that, well, it feels like it's happening on a different planet entirely. We aren't going to the moon. And we certainly aren't going to San Francisco with flowers in our hair.
No, we are setting the coordinates for a rainy, grim, provincial town in England.
A very specific time and place.
It's January, it's cold, and the swingin' 60s. In this town, that's just a rumor people are reading about in the newspapers.
Right, with a mix of, what, suspicion and disapproval.
Totally. It's something happening to other people somewhere else.
So we're working from a stack of source material today, and it's all centered on a narrative account titled The Bitter Rose and the Thorn.
A great title.
It really is. And the mission of this deep dive is to analyze a collision, a very specific collision. We have two very different lives, two very different psychologies that are about to crash into each other with devastating force.
And it's really a story about the transition of that post-war era.
How so?
You have the old world stoic, repressed, holding on for dear life to the past, and it meets the new world. But in this specific case, the new world isn't represented by freedom and love.
No.
It's represented by narcissism, greed, a very modern kind of selfishness.
So we have two protagonists to profile. First, there's Lara Everett. She's a 43-year-old widow who has, for all intents and purposes, frozen herself in time.
A woman in amber.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And second, we have Bill Lee.
The Thorn.
The Thorn. He's a 40-year-old garage owner who is handsome, charismatic, and, well,
Yeah.
arguably one of the most dangerous types of predators you can encounter.
Right. Because he doesn't look like a monster. That's the key.
He looks like a movie star.
Exactly. And that's the central tension of this entire analysis, isn't it? We're going to unpack the psychological profiles of these two.
Yep.
We're going to try to understand the mechanics of the long con that Bill is running. And we're going to look at how grief, how it creates this vacuum that predators just love to fill.
Okay, so let's start by setting the scene properly. The source material is very, very specific about the atmosphere here.
Mm-hmm.
It is January 1969.
And it is raining all the time. Constantly. The text really emphasizes this relentless gray dampness.
The kind that gets in your bones.
It really is. It's
Yeah.
the kind of weather that seeps into your bones and your soul. This is a town that feels like the World War II ended maybe last Tuesday, not 25 years ago.
Wow.
The buildings are still soot-stained. The mindset is still very much keep calm and carry on, even though the rest of the world is like screaming, let it all hang out.
And walking through this rain, we find our first subject, Lara Everett.
The bitter rose.
The bitter rose. Let's do a deep dive into her profile.
Lara she's a fascinating case study in what we might call arrested development caused by trauma, a profound trauma.
On the surface, though, if you just looked at her file, she seems fine.
Totally fine. She's 43. She's financially comfortable, owns her own home. She has a respectable job as the manager-ess of Watkins Travel Agency.
All the boxes are ticked.
All the boxes are ticked, but if you scratch that surface,
There's nothing there.
there's nothing moving underneath. She is emotionally in a deep freeze. She has been stuck, completely stuck in the year 1949.
That's 20 years.
20 years. Since the day her husband died. She has built a life that is safe, structured, and profoundly, intentionally unhappy.
Okay, intentionally unhappy. That's a strong phrase. We have to get into that. But first, let's look at what the text calls the architecture of grief. Because for her, grief isn't just a mood. It's the foundation of her entire house, her whole life.
Absolutely. To understand why Lara is the way she is, you have to look at the sheer volume of loss she sustained in a very, very short window of time. It starts in 1944.
Right in the middle of the war.
Yeah. A V-2 rocket hits her family home. Now, you have to remember, the V-2 was terrifying because it was supersonic.
You didn't hear it coming.
You didn't hear it coming until it had already exploded. So in one single instant, with no warning, Lara loses her parents and her two brothers.
The entire family.
Wiped off the face of the earth, she's the sole survivor.
That survivor's guilt alone. I mean, that would be enough to crush someone for a lifetime.
You'd think so. But she keeps going. She survives the war. She meets a man named Martin. She marries him.
A fresh start.
She thinks, okay, the horror is over. I've paid my dues. This is my chance at a normal life.
And then, 1949. 3 years into the marriage.
Tragedy strikes again. And it's so mundane compared to the high drama of the war, which almost makes it crueler.
How did he die?
Martin is up on the roof of their house fixing a leak. He slips, he falls, he dies. Just like that.
Oh my God. And the sources mentioned she was pregnant at the time.
She was. And the physical and emotional shock of seeing her husband die right in front of her, it caused her to miscarry.
So she lost the baby too.
A boy. She had already named him Douglas. So by the end of 1949, Lara is completely and utterly alone. She has lost her past, her parents and siblings, and she has just lost her entire future, her husband and child.
So how does a person cope with that? I mean, how do you even get out of bed in the morning?
Well, according to our sources, she doesn't cope. She stops time.
She creates a shrine.
Yes. Her house becomes a museum to the year 1949.
What do you mean by that?
Well, for starters, the kitchen hasn't been painted since Martin did it in 1947. The text mentions the paint is peeling, it's yellowing from years of grime, but she absolutely refuses to touch it.
Because painting it would be, what, erasing him?
Exactly. Every chip in that paint is a memory of his labor, of him being there. To renovate is to move on, and moving on is a betrayal she refuses to commit.
And it's not just the paint.
Oh, no. She has photographs of him everywhere, and she has these rituals.
The good night ritual. That one really stuck with me.
It's just heartbreaking, isn't it? Every single night, before she gets into bed, she touches her finger to her lips, and then she presses it against the cold glass of Martin's photograph on the nightstand.
And she winks at him.
She winks at him. She operates on this fundamental belief that he is waiting for her. It's not just a memory for her, it's an active, ongoing relationship with a ghost.
So there's this really interesting distinction she makes about her own mental state. In the late 60s, psychology is starting to enter the mainstream conversation. People are talking about depression.
And Lara watches these talk shows on the BBC. She sees the experts discussing depression as a treatable condition.
And she rejects it.
Violently. She says to herself, I'm not depressed, I'm just bloody unhappy.
What's the difference for her? Why is that distinction so important?
It's about agency. And it's about loyalty. She views depression as a medical illness, a weakness, something that happens to you without your consent.
What unhappiness?
Unhappiness for her is a choice. It's the only rational, loyal response to her tragedy. If she were to be happy, she feels she would be betraying Martin, betraying her lost family, betraying Douglas.
But she chooses it.
She chooses unhappiness as a form of devotion. It's a structured, safe state of being that she can control.
So she wears this routine like a suit of armor.
It is her armor.
Let's talk about her week.
Yeah.
It is identical, week in, week out.
It has to be, doesn't it? Routine prevents the unexpected.
And the unexpected is what killed everyone she ever loved.
Exactly. The unexpected is the V2 rocket. The unexpected is the slip on the roof, so she controls every single variable she can. Friday night is the cinema.
Right. But notice her taste. This is so revealing.
It is. She goes to see Barbarella, which for 1969 is a massive cultural touchstone. You've got Jane Fonda, sci-fi, this liberated sexuality, and Lara.
She hates it. She's scandalized. She sits there in the dark, just judging it.
Who does she prefer?
Julie Andrews. She wants the sounds of music. She wants a world where problems are solved with a song and where there are clear moral boundaries. Barbarella represents the chaos of the sexual revolution, the breakdown of norms, everything she is trying to keep out of her fortress.
So after the cinema, she has bingo.
Bingo twice a week, and the welcome spiritual church.
The church is crucial, isn't it?
It's the only place she really seeks connection, but notice who she's connecting with.
The dead.
She isn't there to make friends with the living congregation. She couldn't care less about them. She's there hoping for a message from Martin through a medium. She prefers the company of the dead because the dead can't leave you.
They've already left.
Exactly. There's no more risk.
There's such a deep irony in her professional life, though.
Oh, it's the ultimate irony. She works as the manageress at Watkins Travel Agency.
So she spends her days standing in front of these huge, glossy posters of Mallorca, Benidorm, the Costa Brava. She sells dreams of escape. The source material mentions she had this childhood passion for geography, sparked by a book called Morton's Elementary Geography.
So she used to dream of traveling.
She dreamt of volcanoes and jungles and faraway places.
But she never goes anywhere.
Never, not once. She arranges the complex logistics for other people to have adventures, but she is too terrified to leave her own postcode.
She is the gatekeeper to the world, but she refuses to step through the gate herself.
Perfectly put.
And this need for safety, for control, it extends to her relationships, too. She has this neighbor, Mrs. Edward, Drusilla.
Drusilla is a fascinating character study in herself. She's a classic moocher.
A parasite, almost.
A bit, yeah. She's constantly popping over to borrow 10 shillings, a cup of sugar, a pound note for the gas meter, and she never pays it back.
And Lara isn't stupid. She knows she's being used, so why does she put up with it?
Because it makes her feel necessary. If Mrs. Edred needs money from her, then Lara has a function in that relationship. It's a purely transactional friendship.
But for Lara, that's safer.
So much safer than a real emotional connection. If Mrs. Edward is just using her for her wallet, Mrs. Edward can't break her heart. It's a controlled, predictable interaction.
That brings us to a scene in the source material that I found. Just incredibly painful to read.
The mirror scene.
The mirror scene. Lara is standing in her bedroom in front of her full-length mirror, and she is just brutal with herself.
She calls herself the Bone Woman.
The Bone Woman, what a term.
It is. And she catalogs every single sign of aging with this kind of masochistic precision. The turkey neck, the dry skin on her elbows, the way her body has become angular and sharp without a man's touch.
She basically convinces herself that she's repulsive.
It's a defense mechanism. It has to be. If she convinces herself that she is an old maid, prim and proper, and physically undesirable, then she removes the very possibility of intimacy from the table.
And if she removes intimacy,
she removes the risk of loss. She is preemptively rejecting the entire world so the world can't hurt her again.
So that is Lara, the bitter rose, frozen, safe, and guarding her unhappiness like it's a treasure. Now let's pivot. Let's meet the force that's about to hit this stationary object.
The Thorn.
Let's meet the Thorn, Bill Lee.
A completely different psychological species. I mean, if Lara is defined by the trauma she suffered, Bill is defined by the trauma he inflicts on others.
So where does a guy like Bill Lee come from? What's his origin story?
Well, he's also a product of the war, but in a very, very different way. He was born in 1929.
Okay, so he would have been a kid during the Blitz.
Exactly. He spent the war years, ages 10 to 16, as a child in the rubble. The source material describes him as almost feral.
He wasn't one of the evacuees sent to the countryside.
Oh no, he was out on the streets collecting scrap metal, roaming the bomb sites, living by his wits. He learned very early on that the world is chaos, and the only rule is to grab what you can before someone else does.
And his home life wasn't exactly a nurturing environment either.
Not even close. His mother, Iris, sounds like an absolute nightmare. The text says she used to beat him with his father's belt.
Wow.
And she explicitly said she beat him to beat the bad out. She sensed something dark or defiant in Bill from a very young age and tried to physically beat it out of him.
And his father. What about him?
George. He's a WWI veteran, now a stroke victim who is partially paralyzed. But the real shadow hanging over the Lee household is the dead brother.
Roger.
Roger, the war hero. Died in Normandy, a golden child. So Bill is the surviving son, the bad son, living his whole life in the shadow of this perfect, dead hero.
But Bill has one massive advantage that shapes his entire life.
He is gorgeous.
Just devastatingly handsome.
The text mentions symmetrical features, piercing sapphire eyes, a strong build. He realized in his early teens that his face was a form of currency, a get-out-of-jail-free card.
He could get away with bad behavior.
Because people, especially women, were just mesmerized by him, he developed this God's gift complex.
A textbook narcissist.
Textbook. He believes the world owes him. He believes rules are for other people, for ugly people. And he has this sociopathic pragmatism that is actually terrifying when you really break it down.
Okay, let's talk about the long con. Because this isn't just about him being a player or a ladies' man. There's a specific financial scheme, and it involves his parents' house.
This is the absolute key to understanding Bill Lee's mind. He is 40 years old. He runs a successful business, Bill Lee Motors. He drives flashy cars.
But he still lives with his parents.
In a council house. Now, today, living with your parents might be an economic necessity for some, but in 1969, for a successful business owner, that's very odd.
So he's not there to take care of them.
He couldn't care less about them. He is waiting for them to die.
That is just so cold. So calculated.
It's purely a business transaction for him. He wants to inherit the secure tenancy of that council house.
Okay, we need to explain the context here for you. Why is a council house lease so valuable?
In post-war England, good housing was still in short supply. A council house meant cheap, subsidized rent and security for life, but the council rules were strict.
Right.
If the parents died, the council wouldn't necessarily transfer the lease of a 3-bedroom family home to a single 40-year-old man. They'd likely move him out and put a young family in.
So Bill needs a family.
He needs a family to secure the asset. And this is where the depth of his cruelty is just. It's laid bare. In 1958, he married a French refugee named Margot.
Not for love.
Not for a second.
Yeah.
He married her because he thought having a wife and eventually a child would force the council's hand. It would make them transfer the lease to him when his parents finally passed away.
He viewed his wife and his own daughter as paperwork.
Yeah.
As props.
That's exactly what they were. Tools for real estate acquisition.
Right.
He treated them with absolute indifference at best and outright cruelty at worst.
And while he's playing the dutiful son and family man at home, he has this whole other life going on.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about the business. Bill Lee Motors.
So he has the legitimate front on the high street where he sells used cars, but then he has the real workshop under the railway arches, Archway 8.
The chop shop.
This is where the truly criminal element comes in. He's creating cut-and-shut cars.
Can you explain that for those of us who aren't mechanics?
Sure. It's a highly illegal and incredibly dangerous practice. You take 2 wrecked cars, say, one that's been smashed in the front and another one that's been smashed in the rear.
Okay.
You literally cut them both in half. Then you weld the 2 good halves together to make one new car.
Which looks fine on the outside, but structurally.
It's a death trap, an absolute death trap. If that car gets into an accident, it will literally split in 2. But Bill doesn't care about the safety of the buyer. He only cares about the profit margin. He's selling these welded-together wrecks as pristine vehicles.
And there's something else in that garage, isn't there? Something that signals his psychology even more. The source mentions a traveling harness.
Yeah, this is where it gets really dark. He tells people it's a special harness for transporting racing greyhounds.
But it's not.
No. His neighbor, Eric the blacksmith, knows better. He recognizes it. It's a bondage device.
So he's a sadist.
The implication is very strong. He is sexually deviant. He enjoys domination, control, maybe even inflicting pain. Eric the blacksmith mentions hearing women scream from the garage late at night.
So he separates his life into these neat little compartments.
Perfectly. The dutiful son for the council, the charming businessman for the public, the fraudster for his bank account, and the sadist for his own private pleasure.
It's terrifying because he functions so well in society. He's not, hiding in a basement somewhere. He's walking down the high street in a nice suit.
That's the danger of the psychopath, isn't it? They wear the mask of sanity.
Okay, so let's talk about the victim of this mask.
Margot,
his wife.
Margot Charpentier. Her story is, it's just one tragedy after another. She is a French-Jewish survivor.
From the war.
In 1940, as a little girl, she survived a Nazi massacre in Paris that killed her entire family. She only survived because she was small enough to hide in a kitchen cupboard.
She was a child.
A child, alone in occupied France. She eventually comes to England as a refugee. She carries a physical scar on her face from a bullying incident in an orphanage. But the emotional scars, as you can imagine, are much, much deeper.
And Bill finds her. Of all the people.
He finds this broken, vulnerable person, and he charms her, he marries her, and then he just systematically destroys what's left of her.
Oh.
His emotional abuse, his coldness, his affairs, it drives her to alcoholism. She starts drinking to cope with the reality of living with a monster who only married her for a lease.
And then the accident happens.
Christmas 1968, so just a month before our main story with Lara begins. Margot is drunk. She steps out into the road right in front of a bus.
Coma, brain damage, amnesia.
Yes. And Bill's reaction is, well, it's perfectly consistent with his character. He tries to discard her like a broken tool.
What does he do?
He immediately attempts to get her institutionalized, locked away in a mental hospital. He wants to divorce her, but, and this is the crucial part, he wants to keep full custody of their daughter, Jenny.
Not because he loves Jenny. We've established that.
No, he completely ignores the child. But without Jenny, he loses his family status for the council house. He needs the child to keep the real estate. She's his trump card.
But there's a twist coming for Bill. A big one.
The awakening. Margot is in the hospital recovering, and there is this cinematic moment described in the text. She's playing tennis as a form of physical therapy to rebuild her coordination.
Right.
She's not very good. She's losing. But a tennis ball whizzes right past her ear.
And the sound?
The sound of it, the thwack. It's like a bullet, and it triggers her memory, the trauma of the war, the massacre. It all comes flooding back, but so does the trauma of her marriage.
The fog lifts.
The fog lifts. She remembers Bill's scheme. She remembers his cruelty. She remembers everything.
So now she's sober, she's remembering, and she wants her daughter back.
Which makes her a massive threat to Bill's entire plan. If Margot gets custody, Bill loses his family. He loses his claim on the house. The walls are closing in on him.
He needs a new plan.
He needs a new plan. He needs a replacement.
Enter Lara Everett.
Enter Lara.
So section 4, the intersection. This is where the train wreck begins. And it happens, of course, at Watkins Travel Agency.
Right, in Laura's fortress.
Bill comes in. He's booking a WWI battlefield tour for his father, George, and George's old friend, Charlie.
Which is just another one of those details that roots this story so firmly in its time.
I have to pause on that. The father wants to go back to the trenches. Voluntarily.
It really highlights that, for these men, the Great War never really ended. They're still processing the Somme 50 years later. But anyway, Bill walks in to book this trip, and Lara looks up from her desk.
And what happens?
Biological override. A complete system failure of her defenses. The text says she compares seeing him to seeing Winston Churchill.
Winston Churchill, that's a very specific comparison.
For her generation, that is the ultimate figure of power, charisma, and safety. She describes his presence as electrifying. She has this visceral, lustful reaction.
So the prim and proper widow, the bone woman,
suddenly feels her blood moving for the first time in 20 years, and it terrifies her.
And Bill, does he feel the same spark?
Not even a little bit. Bill doesn't feel sparks. Bill spots targets.
Oof.
He recognizes her from the spiritual church. He drops his parents off there sometimes, though he never goes in himself. He knows she's a widow. He knows she has a steady job. And he's heard the rumors around town.
Rumors that she's loaded.
Exactly. Lara hasn't spent any money on herself in 20 years. She's been saving. She has a significant nest egg. And Bill sees a lonely woman with money and a repressed nature that he views as a personal challenge.
He actually talks about this to his friend, doesn't he?
He does. He tells Eric, the blacksmith, that he's found someone tight with the dough. And in his words, he's going to loosen her up.
There is zero romance in his mind. This is a hunt.
It is a hunt, and he asks her out immediately. Right there in the agency.
And she says no.
She does. Her defense mechanisms kick back in. She retreats to her prim persona. She denies the attraction. She shuts him down.
But the damage is done.
The damage is done. The seed is planted. She goes home that night, and she can't stop thinking about him. She's fantasizing. She's terrified of what she felt, but she's also obsessed by it.
So Bill has to up his game. He pursues her. And eventually, she gives in. She agrees to a date.
And this date,
which is filled with drug-using youths and hippies.
The exact demographic that Lara hates and fears. Remember, she was scandalized by Barbarella. Now she's sitting in a room with a cloud of marijuana smoke hanging in the air.
And what does Bill do?
He abandons her. He literally leaves her on a bench by herself to go talk to his male friends about cars and engines. He ignores her for the better part of an hour.
It's pure humiliation.
It is. And then, to top it all off, the drive home, the car fails to start.
Of course it does.
It starts pouring rain. There's no roof. Lara gets soaked to the bone. She arrives home shivering. Her dress is ruined. Her hair is a complete mess. She looks like a drowned rat.
And Bill's reaction? Does he apologize? Does he feel bad at all?
He calls her a bloody, ungrateful bitch because she didn't seem to enjoy the ride.
So sure don't know this rational person would say, okay, that's it, never seeing that guy again. That is the end of the story.
You would think.
Yeah.
Any sane person would. But this is where the psychology of profound loneliness overrides logic. Despite the disaster, despite the insults, Lara is confused. She feels cheap and stupid, yes. The source says that explicitly. But she is still drawn to him. She finds herself waiting by the phone, hoping he'll call.
Why? I mean, why go back for more of that abuse?
Because that Churchill electricity is addictive. After 20 years of total numbness, feeling anything, even if it's humiliation mixed with a flicker of lust, is better than feeling nothing at all.
He represents life.
In its most brutal form, yes. He represents the vitality she has denied herself for 2 decades. He is the thorn that proves she can still feel, that she can still bleed.
So when the annual dance at the spiritual church comes up, she's primed. She's ready.
Invests. She goes to a fancy shop called Wiltshire Fashions, and she buys an expensive tweed shift dress. 11 guineas.
Which is a fortune back then. That's a week's wages for some people.
It's a huge amount. She buys new jewelry. She seeks validation from the young shop assistant, asking if she looks nice. She tells herself she won't succumb, that she's just dressing up for the event.
But subconsciously.
Subconsciously, she is dressing for the predator. She is signaling her availability.
And the dance itself.
Yeah.
This is the real climax of our analysis so far. Section 6.
The setting is just perfect for the drama. The Welcome Spiritual Church annual dance. It's Lara's turf.
Her safe space.
Exactly. She's organized it. She feels in control here. She's the manageress at the event.
And Bill arrives.
Without the Jaguar this time. He arrives, he finds her, he cuts in on a dance she's having with some old man, and he starts his real manipulation technique. It's the classic push-pull.
Okay, explain that for us.
He alternates between cruelty and charm, often in the same sentence. 1 minute, he's whispering in her ear that she's a silly cow.
Charming.
The next, he's holding her impossibly tight and looking deep into her eyes. It destabilizes the victim. They end up craving the moments of charm just to get a break from the insults. It creates a trauma bond.
And then he makes his move, the kiss.
He forcibly kisses her, right there on the middle of the dance floor.
In front of everyone. The gossip mongers, the church elders, all the people whose opinions she values.
Lara is mortified. She knows they're all walking and whispering, but the text says her ears are burning. She is terrified of the social shame, but she is also physically thrilled. He has claimed her publicly. He has marked his territory.
And then he drives her home.
And this is where he plays the gentleman act. He drives a sensible saloon car this time. No racing. He walks her to the door. And the whole dynamic has shifted.
How so?
Lara's now expecting the kiss. She wants the kiss. She leans in. The source material says she gives him permission with her body language.
And what does Bill do?
He pulls the rug out from under her. Completely. Instead of kissing her on the lips, he takes her hand, brings it to his mouth, kisses her knuckles, and says, "That didn't hurt, did it?"
Oh, wow, that is so cold.
It's a power play. A masterful, cruel power play. He leaves her wanting more. He proves that he has total control over the physical interaction. He has turned the tables. She rejected him at the travel agency. Now he is the one withholding affection from her.
He has her exactly where he wants her.
Hook, line, and sinker.
So where does this leave us? Section 7, the aftermath in the future. What's Lara's state of mind after this?
She is left completely frustrated. She feels cheap, but now she's obsessed. She skips her beloved Friday cinema. She misses the screening of the Italian Job, which is a classic because she's too distracted, just waiting for Bill to call. She is falling headfirst into the trap.
And the trap is closing because the external pressures on Bill are mounting, right?
We have to connect all the dots here. Bill is under serious financial pressure. Margot is regaining her memory and her strength. She's going to fight him for Jenny.
And if she wins?
If she wins, Bill loses his claim on the council house. The police might be getting suspicious about the chop shop under the R's. He's juggling a lot of dirty secrets.
He's a lifeboat.
And Lara is the lifeboat. She is wealthy, she is lonely, she is respectable, and she is profoundly vulnerable.
So the speculation is?
Our speculation, and it's heavily supported by the text, is that Bill is grooming Lara to be the replacement wife. Not because he wants her or loves her or even likes her, but because he needs a clean, respectable woman with her own money to secure his housing status and maybe even fund his legal battles against Margot.
It's the long con, just pivoting to a new target.
Exactly. He's swapping a damaged asset Margot for a fresh one, Lara. It's just business.
It's a tragedy in slow motion.
Yeah.
You just want to shake her. You want to scream at her through the pages, through the time machine.
You do. You want to tell her that the excitement she's feeling isn't love. It's the warning signal of a predator closing in. But she can't see it.
Why not?
Because she has no frame of reference for healthy love. Her only reference is a dead husband who's been enshrined as a perfect saint. So she interprets Bill's red flags, his cruelty, his control, as passion, because she has no idea what real, living passion is supposed to feel like.
Her isolation made her the perfect victim.
It absolutely did.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the big takeaway here?
I think the central tragedy is that Lara sought safety above all else. For 20 years, she avoided life to avoid pain. She built this fortress of unhappiness around herself. But by avoiding life, she never developed the emotional immunity to people like Bill.
So when he finally broke through her defenses,
She had no tools to handle him, no alarm bells, no experience. She was, in a way, as naive as a teenager, and he knew it.
in the broader context, what does this story say about 1969?
It's a portrait of a 1969 that we rarely see. We see the moon landing, the pop music, but we forget the shadows. The war is still casting this long, dark shadow here. You have George wanting to go back to the battlefields. You have Margot reliving the massacre in Paris. You have Lara mourning her family lost to a V-2 rocket.
And Bill.
Bill is the mutation that grew out of that rubble. A man who learned that survival of the fittest means taking what you want no matter who gets hurt in the process. He is the dark side of that post-war boom.
So the provocative question we have to leave you, our listeners, with is this. Bill Lee has successfully charmed a lonely widow while hiding a secret life of crime and a brain-damaged wife he's trying to discard. Will Lara's spirits or her long-dormant intuition save her? Or is she destined to be the next victim in Bill's long con?
And a follow-up to that. If she does fall for it, if she does marry him, what happens when her money runs out? Or when he no longer needs her to secure the lease? History suggests Bill Lee doesn't keep things around that are no longer useful.
A truly chilling thought. We encourage you to look closely at the charmers in your own lives. Sometimes the brightest lights cast the darkest shadows. Thanks for listening to this deep dive. We'll see you next time.